Before you end up in YG's dungeon, I've done my time. We're very inclined to just believe whatever it is people put in front of us. Something like this might have just been entertainment for you, but it could have been life-shattering for someone else. Hi, welcome. My name is Angelina and welcome to an episode of Kpop Investigations, where I basically take a subject and do a little bit of a deep dive into it and then share with you my super scientific results. And today we're going to be talking about Jennie because recently a hashtag has been trending, hashtag apologize to Jennie, and this stems from a recent post from Pann Choa that aimed to clarify one of her scandals back a few years ago. And given how big this was and how much it followed her even to this day, I thought we could talk about that. Also, thank you to this lovely individual for suggesting this topic. But before we get into it, I'm going to stop you right there to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with friends you don't have. Before you end up in YG's dungeon, I've done my time, and I'm not going back. So for context, let's talk about how this all happened from the beginning. So a few years back, Jennie was seen performing different than usual and was included in some compilation videos essentially titled, Jennie's Lazy Dancing. Now there was one video of this sort that I remember going completely viral, but since then I don't know if it's still up. However, there are a lot of videos like this on YouTube as of now. But I do think it's really important to recognize how big this got. Everyone was talking about it, and for a really long time, Jennie's name was unfortunately associated with the word lazy. However, it's also really important to note that no matter how big this got, no matter how significant it got, no matter how damaging these accusations were, YG never released a statement about it. Now, there are some rumors that they tried to take those videos down, but that could very well be due to copyright, which doesn't make the most sense if you think about it, because YG generally will put a copyright claim on a video, but the video can still remain up. That, however, is the story that I've heard, that YG, tried to take down the videos instead of releasing a statement. But just know that I can't confirm that they tried to take those videos down. But because YG never actually addressed the situation, it allowed a lot of people to speculate why she was dancing the way she was dancing. On one hand, there were people who were quite concerned for her, who were defending her. And within that group of people, there were also some people who were trying to diagnose her with some type of mental illness, which is problematic because I just think we simply cannot speak to idols' mental health, and we're absolutely, definitely not qualified to do so either. While on the other hand, there were many people who were angry at her for presumably ruining BLACKPINK's image and giving a subpar performance to people who had paid to see them perform. So these accusations actually followed her for quite a few years, even up till now. And it's also important to note that around this time as well, she was also painted as a rude person, notably for her appearance on Knowing Bros. And I actually clarified this in a previous video of mine if you'd like to check that out, why people still misunderstand Jennie. But long story short, she was being funny on this show, like funny as hell in my opinion, but a lot of people unfortunately misinterpreted her as being rude. Now, despite the fact that the premise of this show is essentially that you can speak to people as if they are the same age as you, right? Everyone's kind of in this classroom, you guys all talk to each other like you're the same age, even if someone is older than you. So the entire allure of this show is based on that. So she was feeding into that and being funny, but a lot of people just took it the wrong way, and unfortunately this painted her as being rude. So it's definitely safe to say that this was huge, right? It was a big scandal and it really affected Jennie's image in the eyes of the public as well as BLACKPINK's image as well. So when this post from Pann Choa was released, a lot of people were so ecstatic to seemingly find a reason for why she was performing that way. Because the post aimed to clarify the situation and kind of mend Jennie's image, even though it was 2 years later, 2 years after the fact. And it's not even a post from YG themselves or a clarification from YG or Jennie, but it's from someone. I don't know who posted this. I don't know if this person is reliable. And it is important to point that out, that even though this post is seemingly clarifying everything with receipts, we still, at the end of the day, don't actually know the entirety of the story, and none of it has actually been confirmed. But I digress. By the way, all of these screenshots are from @Pann Choa on Twitter, and they will all be linked down below if you would like to check them out. So the post is titled, "Jennie is seriously impressive," and then goes on to talk about Jennie's ankle injury. "I'm saddened by this. When she got hated for dancing lazily on stage, it was during the time when she got a big injury on her ankle. And even so, she still wore high heels, and it looked painful while she was walking during her promotion." We then see a screenshot from a news article that was posted during her debut days, which reads, "BLACKPINK Jennie rushed to the hospital after ankle injury on the set of Inkigayo, fighting spirits with painkillers." So then we're shown this clip where she's at a concert and she goes to step down and her ankle just completely flips. The clip is honestly a little bit difficult to watch, so I will be linking it below. And then the post is essentially followed with more pictures, more evidence of her having issues with her ankle, even going as far as showing her still wearing heels amongst all of this. Now again, I need to point out that I cannot clarify the timeline of each and every one of these pictures. I can't clarify which dates they were taken or the timeline of all of these pictures to make it make sense. But I mean, regardless, obviously she has had ankle problems. Even up until recently, until their recent comeback with How You Like That, she was walking with kind of crutches, right? And what's even more disturbing about this is that if she did have such bad ankle injuries, then why is YG and the styling team still making her wear high heels? But we'll get into that later because there are still many people who do not believe the contents of these posts. So then, of course, we see one of the infamous gifs from one of her, quote-unquote lazy performances, and it looks as though she's looking down at her steps, which would kind of make sense on its own if you're simply wearing heels and walking backwards. I would look down as well, quite obviously. So with that, we see a text that reads, "And every time she stopped dancing a bit because of her ankle pain, people were bashing her for being lazy." And then it ends with, "This happened a while ago, but I'm worried. Because of their schedule, it seemed like it was hard for her to get proper treatment. Jennie is seriously impressive at such a young age. I hope that all idols don't get hurt and are healthy." So of course, in response to this, people took to Twitter and started trending the hashtag apologize to Jennie, which showcased plenty of people showing their support for her and essentially calling out people who ran with the narrative that she was lazy, when in reality, this post seems to point to the fact that it was actually an ankle injury. So again, I'm using that type of language because this isn't a clarification from YG Entertainment. This isn't a clarification from Jennie herself. But either way, whether it is legit, whether it's not legit, I still do think that, her quote-unquote scandal is something that we genuinely need to talk about for a multitude of reasons. Here's the thing. If you ever saw the compilation of fan cams of Jennie, dancing differently than usual, I think it's really easy for people to be inclined to just believe what they're seeing, right? When I first saw the videos, I was like surprised. I was like what's going on? How, why isn't YG addressing this? It was a very confusing situation because there was a lack of context, and whatever context that there was surrounding it, it was by people who were claiming that she was lazy, that she was YG's princess, that she didn't have to work as hard as the other members because she was, a privileged member. And it's really situations like this where you realize that public image can so easily be shifted with false information, because the plain truth is people are willing to believe whatever it is that is presented in front of them without looking into it. And I know this example is really weird to bring up, but I feel like the Tati and James situation is the perfect example of this because, on one hand, when Tati released her video, she was exposing someone, everyone believed her, but then, when James released his video, everyone believed him. We're very inclined to just believe whatever it is people put in front of us. And honestly, it's a perfect situation that showcases how people can be swayed from one side to another so easily. And this is generally what happens when many scandals come to light. And quite frankly, that type of behavior is so dangerous and it is so damaging. If you first saw those videos and you felt a certain way and you questioned it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You should be questioning everything. You have to question everything. You can't just watch something and just believe it. Do you know what I mean? You're not wrong if you saw those compilations of her and you questioned why, and you wondered why, and you wondered what was the reasoning, and you were maybe concerned, or you were not wrong for thinking those things. But obviously, if you're spreading false narratives and feeding into false information, and most importantly, if you are spreading hate or narratives that you really don't know the whole story behind, that's when it becomes problematic. Something like this might have just been entertainment for you, but it could have been kind of life-shattering for someone else. And it's understandable. Like, I too sometimes get swept away with the hype of it all, with the hype of things, and I will believe something very briefly, and then I'm like, no, like, do your research, look into it, go to the source. And the truth is, it's hard to get to the source sometimes. That's what I realized when doing news videos. When you try to look for the source, it's often covered up so much by fans. It's often covered by false narratives. You'll realize that many fans will do and say anything, even spreading harmful misinformation in the aim to protect their idols. So many things to just cover the truth. And sometimes the truth just isn't there. And the thing is, I'm going to say something that sounds a little scandalous, but I hope you'll hear me through. I don't think this post from Pann Choa actually matters at the end of the day. I don't think it matters if she had an ankle injury. I don't think it matters if she was just having a bad day. I don't think any of that matters because I don't think that idols owe us anything. You might be thinking, well, if people are paying to see a performance, you need to force yourself to give such a great performance. And that's the thing. I don't inherently agree with that. I'm sure we've all been in a situation where we're getting paid to do a job and we just don't have the capacity to do that. Is that fair to everyone? No. But it is human nature at the end of the day, and idols are allowed to be imperfect. They are allowed to get injured. They are allowed to have bad days. They are allowed to mess up. They are allowed to not fit this perfect image that you've created for them in your head, because realistically, you do not know them. So no, I don't think the ankle injury really matters, because at the end of the day, it's this sense of entitlement that everyone has that makes all of this such a shitty situation. So I hope, just collectively we can try to normalize, idols taking a day off, or idols not showing up to a performance, or idols just, having more human moments. And I'm seeing more and more of this every single day. For example, I think it's a lot more common for idols to kind of sit out of a performance or sit on the sidelines of a performance, whereas way, way back in the day, you'd literally see idols fainting on stage. So I do think we are making a lot of strides in that sense where, we're being a lot more accepting and showing a lot more support to idols who are injured, who just aren't feeling as well, and just enjoying the performance with one member missing or two members missing, if that makes sense. I feel like I've seen that a lot more often these days. But it is also super curious to point out that we could see compilations of idols literally just fainting on stage in the past, but these videos would essentially bring up feelings of concern, right? We'd be really concerned for our idols, we would demand better treatment for our idols, we would want them to get rest, However, when something kind of similar happened with Jennie, and again, I can't speak to her mental health, I can't speak to her physical health, but regardless, we still didn't offer her that same courtesy of coming from a place of concern. But there's also the issue of the inherent sexism within this whole situation. The thing is, I've seen so many fan cams, and I've seen a lot of male idols just, kind of messing around or not dancing with as much enthusiasm. And their fans are so quick to say that, they're so cool, they're performing in a cool way. So it's not lazy if it's a man doing it. It's cool when male idols do this. But when Jennie did it, it was like the end of the world. People wanted to end her career. And this again goes hand in hand with my double standards video. If Jennie has a resting bitch face, then she's cold and she must be mean, but when men do the same face, they are often seen a lot better. It doesn't mean that they don't get shit on for the same things, it just means they get shit on differently. Their flaws are essentially sexualized, while for women, it's demonized. And I get so much backlash all the time when I talk about this. I'm not saying that your male idols don't experience any hate ever. I'm just saying they experience it differently, and it's okay to admit that. It's okay to call that out. And you defending them to that extent while also tearing down my examples of women who do the same thing shows your inherent sexism as well. But that's not my circus. But anyways, With this hashtag trending, I totally understand the sentiments of people wanting other people to apologize to Jennie. But I feel like the first step should have been, from the beginning, still should be, YG releasing a statement about this. Which, as of filming right now, nothing has been said. And honestly, the lack of statement and lack of credibility from the post that has been brought up has led a lot of people to even question this. So on one hand, when I asked you guys on my community tab what your thoughts were on the situation, there were so many people who were like, finally, some clarification. But there were also a lot of people who were finding holes within the story, who were saying, you know, it doesn't really add up, and YG didn't say anything. Why are they forcing her to perform in heels if she has an ankle injury? Why was her injury so selective, quote unquote? And I think there's a lot to dive into with that in particular. So one of the points that I wanted to touch on was the fact that a lot of people were saying that for her solo performances, she seemed fine. But then in other performances, she wasn't really giving it her all. So it seemed that her injury seemed a little bit selective according to them, as in she would decide herself when she's hurt or when she's not. I'm going to touch on this very lightly and very briefly because I personally thought there was a little bit of ableism in this way of thinking, and I'm not the most knowledgeable on these issues, so I'll leave some links below to channels who speak on this so much better. But I did need to clarify, because if you do have an injury or maybe a disability, it doesn't mean that you will feel the same way every single day, that you will need the same level of help every single day. So I think it's important to rethink the way we view that, rethink the questions we're asking in regards to this, to kind of avoid the stigma that a lot of people have to live with on a daily basis. So again, I'll be leaving some resources in the description of this video. But I mean, we don't know the situation. We don't know the exact clarification. And that's why I'm also saying again and repeating it, that I don't think it matters if it was an ankle injury. I don't think it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, even if her foot was perfectly fine, if she just wasn't feeling it, I think we need to normalize that a little bit more. I'm sure the vast majority of us can relate to having a bad day and having to push through, but we got away with it. We didn't have the entire internet pointed out, make a compilation video, and have, you know, our careers try to be ruined or attempt to ruin our careers because we didn't have a good day. As non-idols, we're given that opportunity, and I don't know why we can't extend that to idols as well. So no, it doesn't matter to me what the reasoning was, because I don't think it's really any of my business. And I think no matter what the reason was, even if she just woke up that day and thought, I just don't want to. I don't know. I still think that's valid. But honestly, in light of all this, I still see super toxic behavior, and I wanted to talk about that. I understand that a lot of people who just exist on the internet perpetually get this type of hate, and it is what it is. Like, unfortunately, I hate to say that. I wish there was some type of justice. I wish there was some type, I don't know how to explain it. And this isn't just about this situation in particular. It's about just things that I'm constantly seeing all over the internet. You know, I understand the sentiments behind this situation in particular. You know, I get it. But for most situations involving anyone saying anything about K-pop idols, it always seems to follow the same structure. A situation is brought to light, and oftentimes fans can come in hordes with the intention of kind of rectifying the situation themselves. I just don't understand how we can advocate for idols' mental health while trying to destroy in that same breath someone else's mental health. Because it's like people want to defend Jennie, and in defending Jennie, they just bring so much hate towards other people. It's gross to try and encourage someone to essentially their own life because you're so passionate about your idol. You know, an idol who doesn't know you. You do not know your idols do not know you. They would probably be disgusted if they knew the extents that their fans were going to defend them. There's just no winning in this situation, and there never will be a sense of winning, a sense of justice. Like, it doesn't exist. Just as passionately as you defend your idols with harsh words, the same people who hate your idols are just as passionate, and it's honestly a vicious cycle. Because at the end of the day, people want to see people fall. And honestly, I do wish companies would address things a little more often, or if idols themselves could address things a little bit more often, I feel like maybe that would help. But then at the end of the day, who knows? Like, who knows? How leave down in the comments below how you think you could fix this shit show of an internet. But yeah, that is basically it for me. Thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, you might as well click on another one of my videos. You can also follow me on Instagram. You can also join my channel memberships by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button. These are the lovely individuals who help support my channel on a monthly basis. Thank you so much for all of your love. As for me, I'm gonna go cry in a corner now. I didn't mention 21 in this video. Bye.